Your main goal should be trying to achieve as many natural erections as possible in a given day without pumping. If you want to actually start seeing results, then focus on providing your organ the raw materials that it actually needs to grow. And I'll tell you how to do that. PE Enthusiast on YouTube asks, "Hey Perf, I have a question about your live stream with Hank, specifically about restorative pumping. Is twice per day a hard limit, or is 3 to 4 times per day on top of work? Or could this be detrimental to EQ quality or gains? Hope to hear back from you." My response: hey man, so I personally wouldn't ever recommend more than 2 times per day, but that's just based on feasibility and the fact that honestly, it's not something I've ever experimented with. Basically, one of the most restorative things that we could possibly do for our penis, and definitely for penis enlargement journey, is to increase the amount of erections that we have per day. By pumping in a restorative manner, we basically emulate 2 erections for 10 minutes at a time. So it's kind of like just gifting yourself 2 extra erections per day. Now, you should know that with all of my coaching clients, getting them to have regular erections throughout the day is something that we definitely work towards by addressing things like sleep, sex, nutrition, and training. And if they aren't having regular erections, then we go into problem-solving mode to figure out why. I don't even actually begin to worry about my clients doing more hanging or extending or pumping if we can't just get regular erections, because something is intrinsically off within the system at that point. So my honest answer is this: it just isn't something I'm going to recommend, because our main goal should be trying to achieve as many natural erections throughout the day as possible without using pumping. Penis pumps, or vacuum erection devices as they're called in clinical studies, have been shown to accelerate healing and reduce negative side effects that are associated with having surgeries or procedures on your penis. The thing is that while we actually have a limited amount of data to show what pumping protocols actually cause growth, what we do have a lot of is studies that show its restorative capabilities. The reasoning behind the dose and frequency of recovery pumping being 5 inches of mercury, or 17 kilopascals, and 10 minutes broken into 2 5-minute sets with a 10-second rest in between is very simple. When you look at the studies that have been done on restoration and recovery, if you draw a Venn diagram of all of the protocols that have been studied, you find that there is a lot of overlap between what we find effective in clinic that points towards around 5 inches of mercury for 10 minutes, broken into 2 or more sets. The reason for the pumping pressure is because 5 inches of mercury is a very safe level of vacuum pressure because it is on the low end of what would be naturally achievable through an erection. The reason for the 10-minute sessions twice a day is because multiple events of cell signaling tend to have a greater magnitude of effect over the long term than something like one 20-minute set. This is also apparent in other areas where we see similar instances of frequency actually trumping intensity, such as controlling blood glucose with 10-minute walks. One 10-minute walk performed 3 times a day has a more meaningful impact on controlling resting blood glucose than one 30-minute walk per day. Multiple studies have confirmed that there is an overall greater level of fat oxidation performing cardiovascular activities twice a day for 30 minutes as opposed to once a day for 1 hour. Similarly, we have data to show that testosterone hormone levels are maintained better by performing 2 90-minute sessions of training in one day as opposed to training for 3 hours in one session. So all that to say, we have a lot of data to show that frequency more often than not trumps intensity. And in the case of blood flow as it pertains to restoration, that is especially true. The more blood flow events that we can occasion within a given time frame directly correlate to the amount of raw materials that we make available for rebuilding tissue on a cellular level. 5 inches of mercury for 10 minutes twice a day is also not enough to stimulate or stress the tissue by nature of breaking it down so that it causes an adaptation response. So this dose and frequency doesn't compound training and add to the training load or training stress, but rather helps to facilitate recovery from it. So the question is, can you do recovery pumping at 8 inches of mercury or 4 times a day, or at 10 inches of mercury and 15 times a day? And the answer is, honestly, you can do whatever you want with pumping. It's just not recovery pumping at that point. Recovery pumping as a concept, as I have defined it, is 2 10-minute sessions at 5 inches of mercury, broken into 2 5-minute sets with 10 seconds of rest in between. And on training days, simply performing 1 10-minute set, broken into 2 sets of 5 minutes at 5 inches of mercury. 8 to 12 hours prior to training. So that is the reason behind the recovery pumping principles and practice. Basically, we're looking for the minimum effective dose in pressure and time to elicit a blood flow response that we call hyperemia, or that is flooding an area with more blood flow than usual, in order to facilitate recovery. But doing that 4 times a day or for more pressure than I recommend just isn't doing recovery pumping. Again, you can do whatever you want. Just don't bitch to me whenever it backfires and you end up injuring yourself or overtraining. You can't take my recipe for cookies and cut the amount of sugar in half and double the salt and then come to me and be like, hey, Perv, your cookies fucking suck, dude. No, my cookies don't suck. You suck at following instructions. Those are, in fact, not my cookies. Anyways, please like and subscribe. If you would, it really helps me out. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. And as always, visit www.massivenovelties.com for all your PE needs.